Well met, weary traveler. We are the Highwaymen. Take a seat, we'll deal you in, and spin you tales of fear.
It was around 2008. I was a 23-year-old male at the time all this began. It was the weekend, and an old high school friend reconnected with me online, so we decided to grab a beer at a bar by his town, which is the same town I went to college in. It was my round, so I went up to the bar of this dim, dirty dive bar and asked for a bucket of beers. As I was waiting for my beers, a girl approached me. Let's call her Jane. "Hey, do you remember me?" she said, acting flirtatious. I really didn't know her and couldn't remember meeting her, so I said something like, "I'm sorry, I talk to a lot of people at my job. Can you refresh my memory?" She stated she took a class with me and worked with me on a group project. I still had no idea who she was, however. She knew my name and the class I was in. I wasn't really interested in talking to her, so I politely said, "Well, nice to see you," and went back to my table. I left about an hour later and headed home. I took a shower and was getting ready to go to bed. I checked my phone before I got into bed, and an unknown number called me twice and texted me and left a voicemail while I was in the shower. The text was from Jane saying it was great to see me and that I looked cute or something along those lines. It was very flirtatious. I wasn't going to lead a girl on, so I responded politely saying it was cool seeing her as well. I was weirded out because I did not exchange phone numbers with her at the bar. She may have had it on an old list if she was in one of my classes. When I woke up, I had over 10 texts sent to me inviting me over to hook up. It was point blank, just telling me to come over. I laughed it off at first and was kind of flattered, but my thought was, man, she must have drank a lot that night. I didn't respond as I felt it would be awkward. This is where the real shit begins. I worked in an office where I could not have my cell phone out. It's a very professional environment. On my break, I powered my phone on. I had 19 missed calls, 20 plus texts, and approximately 10 voicemails. I freaked out as I thought there was an emergency, but everything was from Jane. These messages go from hellos to sexual advances, to anger at why I'm not answering, to I'm sorries, to sobbing I'm sorries, to threats of self-harm if I don't respond. I was beyond freaked out, but I texted to see if she was okay or needed help. She texted me as if it was the greatest day of her life hearing from me. I let her know I felt her messages were inappropriate and that I didn't want to give her the impression that I wanted to date her. I was young and wanted to experience dating, but not with her. From the beginning, this was just so odd to me. She began to go through cycles of anger, seduction, sadness, happiness, etc. I began getting 40 plus calls and messages. I decided it would be best to just stop responding at this point. This was over a week. Day and night calls and messages. Then one message caught my eye. She mentioned where I work. I never told her this. I got paranoid, leaving work thinking she was following me. I'd drive around for a while before going home from work. I remember sending her one last message stating if she contacts me again, I would call the police. At this time, I had to pay monthly fee on my cell phone to have numbers blocked, but I never heard from her again. Jane, if you're reading this, let's never meet again.
I want to start by saying this won't be as creepy as most of the stories on here, but is something that completely horrified me to my core when it happened. Back in my late teens in Dublin, Ireland, I used to head to a particular nightclub every single week. And I got to know most of the regulars there, to the point where I could sit down at any table and know at least one person. One night, I was introduced to a new woman that no one really knew very well. And I said hello, made very short and polite conversation, and then went on about my time there. Doing the normal things, such as dancing and drinking. Nothing much of note happened during this time in the club. At the end of the night, I left a little earlier than my friends because I lived really far outside of the city. I got a taxi home, man was it expensive, and got into bed, falling into a deep sleep. I woke up in the morning, sunlight streaming into my room, and I immediately knew something was wrong. Too much weight on the bed. I spun and looked down to the end of the room, and there sat, on the end of the bed, was the woman from the night before, staring at me wide-eyed with utter devotion and a weird smile. It was totally fucking horrible. I had no idea what to say, so I said nothing. I was so weirded out by her expression and the whole bizarre nature of the situation, I was dumbstruck. It wasn't a lustful look, it was spooky, obsessive, insane looking. I know a lot of guys have the idea of some random woman appearing in their room. Might be a bit of a thrill, but this was nothing like that. It was scary, plain and simple. I got up, got dressed, summoned up a bit of courage, turned to her and said, "You're leaving now," and essentially marched her out of the house, telling her that buses leave from the end of the road every half hour. She left without saying anything. From talking to friends and family, I pieced together what had happened. After I left the club, she tried to catch me, but instead had lost me. She went back and asked around until someone told her the rough area I lived. She got a taxi there, knocked on random doors, waking up neighbors, and eventually one told her exactly where I lived. And then she lied to my sister, saying that I had been expecting her. My sister was pissed off at being woken up, but let her in. From there, she got to my room and sat there for God knows how long, silently watching me. As it turns out, almost nobody from the club knew her at all, but we all assumed someone else must know her. What really spooks me is that if she wanted to hurt me, for whatever reason, she easily found her way right into my family house, right into my bedroom. I shudder just thinking about it. To the creepy lady from the nightclub, if you're reading this, let's not meet again.